morning, Jayful. Is my mic already on? Yeah, it is. Awesome. Yes, excited to be here. So, before we begin, just a question that I want to ask you, you can ponder upon. Were you ever in your career in a team that could, quote unquote, just get shit done? Hopefully, yeah. Yeah. And they could burn through stories effortlessly and produce really good software. And don't you wish you could do that all the time? Now, I was fortunate enough in a position to be at Rabobank in a team that, in the end, could do just that. Could produce very good software and work really well together. We didn't start out that way. We started out as a quote-unquote normal Scrum team. But to continuous improvements, we tried to try stuff, and some of the things failed miserably, other things worked really well for us. And what I want to do with you today is share some of the things we learned during that time, and in the form of some tips. And maybe you can cherry pick some of those tips and take them home to your team and try them out. So maybe they will work, maybe they're not, but at least you can try. So I'm Michel Schudel, as Jan already said. I've been a Java developer in the business for like 20 years now. I have some videos on YouTube about Java, cryptography, stuff like that. So if you're into tech, you can really look that up. And this is my Twitter handle. So if you want to follow me, Michel Schudel, you can do that. And so let's begin. Yeah, it works. So a little bit context. This is the department division of Rabobank, which is called Lending and Insurance. So it's basically the mortgage department. So not really exciting, but still, we make apps for customers to help them with their mortgage application process. It's like 500 people, the division, about, I guess, 20 teams, and our team was called the Avengers. So, nice tech stack. So we use Java 11, 17 soon to be released, soon to be used, I mean, it's already released. Kubernetes, we deploy in Kubernetes. We use Microsoft Azure for our repos. And for our build pipelines, we use Elastic for logging. And Kotlin is now on the way in our division as well. So it's an awesome tech stack. So if you want to learn more about that, go to the Rabobank booth and they can tell you all about it. But today, I'm not going to talk about tech. Well, maybe a little bit, but not too deep. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through one of our sprints and see how we do things, or how we did things, how we failed, and how we started to do things in a different way that allowed us to make software in a better way. So what I'm going to do today is give you 8 tips to improve the performance of your team. Some might work, some might not, but you can cherry pick them and try them if you like. Okay, so the first thing we do in a sprint is get in stories. So this would be a typical story in lending and insurance. So there is basically a law change that basically allows you to buy a house without property tax if you're younger than 35 years. Well, that's fine, it's not really important for what I try to tell you. But the first thing we do is we take it in and we do story refinement. So the way we did it in the beginning was something like this. So we took the property tax story and then we went into refinements. And she said, oh yeah, it's refined, so let's put it on the backlog. Oh yeah, do we have room? Yeah, like 4 weeks from now. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So we put it on the backlog and then 4 weeks later we started implementing it. And of course, we completely forgot about half the context, why we made certain decisions, what the context actually meant. So we had to go back to the product owner and ask them if he's actually there, more on that later. And ask them if, what was this again? So we completely forgot. So we said, can we improve this? Well, let's try something else. Let's try refinements, but we do them just in time. So we call them JIT kickoffs. So just-in-time kickoffs. It looks a little bit like a refinement, but it has some properties of refinements, but it's also a little bit different. So here are some properties for you. So the whole team is involved, that's one. So that includes the business. The business is on the table as well. It's 2 hours back, so we time box it. So if it gets too incomplete or too complex, we split it out and move it to a different kickoff. Very important, the team creates a global design on the spot based on the business, what the business tells them. The team then tries to identify subtasks, either round robin, for example, so what do you think should be done, what do you think should be done, or just ad hoc, just shout out what you think needs to be done. And the most important part is you go to work immediately after finishing the kickoff. Now, why is this? Because the context is fresh in everyone's minds, and because everyone was involved in the subtasks, everyone knows exactly what needs to be done. So there's no reiteration of, oh, what was this again, and stuff like that. So that really helped us in making a quick start in new stories. And what we try to do is all work on the same story together, or max two, because if you have a bigger team, it's not really feasible to do that. That presents some other challenges, but I will talk about this later. So an example of this would be something like this. So here's a property text story. We make a design on the spot. In this case, maybe it's a sequence diagram or something like that. And then the team members, so the remember team was called Avengers, so that's why the icons are there. We identify subtasks. So basically, Iron Man says, oh, we need to make a front-end controller. And I think that's Bruce Banner. We have to get calculation service to production, stuff like that. So all team members contribute in making subtasks. So that's the way we do that. So that really helped us in making sure that the context is fresh in everyone's minds. So that was my first tip, do just-in-time kickoffs. Now, when you have done the kickoff, you can start with the sprint. So here's the story again, so we look at it again, but we know already because we just refined it. But yeah, there is a small difference. So if under the max price, what does that mean? We don't know. Probably the product owner went into Jira and typed something in, and we don't really know what it means. So it doesn't matter, it's only a small thing. Let's ask the product owner. Product owner, I have no idea where he is. You know, does this sound familiar? So our product owner used to be a very busy guy, and he was not always there. So we said, what can we do about this? Because we need this information in order to progress on this story. So yeah, it's basically really simple. So if he's not there, you can make sure that you have either a product owner who knows about the same stuff, so from another team, or a business analyst, if you have something like that in your organization, who also intricately knows about this particular story or particular problem. So that's tip number 2 for you. So have a product owner or backups that are available all the time. That really helped us in making sure that we didn't create any bottlenecks. So once the story is actually pretty clear, we start working on it. So this story is like a law change. So we had like a front-end developer in our team, which was doing front-end. And we had a stuff of like really older guys, I see. That is our Java developers. And yeah, we had something like that. So there's a story, this is only like calculation change. And the front-end developer said, so what should I do? I don't know. I have no idea. The back-end developers, if it was a front-end story only, so making screens, for example, says, this is stupid typed JavaScript stuff. I don't want to have anything with it, you know. So sometimes you have someone who has nothing to do, and you create a bottleneck. So we had this problem, and we tried to solve it. Now we try to solve it like this. So fire everyone, and then look for full stack developers. Now what we found out, this guy doesn't actually exist. By the way, this guy doesn't actually exist. But yeah, because our landscape is way too big, you know, for someone to know everything about everything. So we said, okay, then how should we solve this? Okay, so we started doing this. So for example, for a front-end story, we put a backender in the driver's seat. So that's way out of your comfort zone at first sight. But thankfully, you have a mentor in the form of the front-end developer that will guide you through the process. So you learn a little bit about Angular and TypeScript and stuff like that. And for backend stories, so for example, work on calculations, we turn it around. So we put the front end in the driver's seat. So there was his first connection with Java, and he said, it's really strong, the type language is really stupid. And we put the Java developer as a guide to mentor him. So in that way, you learn something from each other's knowledge, and you basically become T-shaped, which is actually a real thing. So what then happens is your knowledge area grows closer together. And that means that for, well, let's say not really complex tasks, but simple tasks, you can just work on front-end, back-ends all together without the need to wait for someone. So that is my tip number 3 for you. So pair different disciplines to grow T-shaped developers. That really helped us for us. So when you compose a team, make sure that you take into account this mix. Now, the other thing is team personality. So this is the hardest part to solve, but at least I can tell you something, the different types that you can find in teams. So these are a few. So I'll walk through them pretty quickly. So first you have the coordinator. That's the guy who is always right, oh, now we should do this, and now we should do that. It's not a leader, but someone who keeps the, what do you call it, the grander design of things, right? So really useful if you want to have good planning. And then you have the plans. That's the creative guy. So that's Tony Stark in this case, who will just shout, let's do GraphQL. Okay, sure, if you think that's a good idea. Not always a good idea, but it's really good to have a creative force in your team. And then the implementer, that's the guy who's just a workhorse, gets shit done. That's me, by the way, in this team, partially. Maybe the team is here, maybe they don't agree. Well, I'll talk to you later. Then you have the researcher, and that he works really well together with the plant. So he will take an idea and just go ballistics on it, figure out what to do. Then there's the perfectionist. I really hate that guy. It's all in the details, boys. He goes on endlessly about small stuff, and yeah, but of course, that's useful as well, right? And then the investigator, he or she looks outside the team for inspiration and information. And last but not least, and this guy you cannot do without, is your team worker. You always need him, because he will make sure that the team will be working as a team together instead of a group of individuals. Now, of course, this gives clashes. So I had something like this. So I'm the guy who always said, let's put it in production, it's good enough for now. So I don't care. And this guy comes in and says, no, that button is 2 pixels too far left. I don't care. But of course, he has a point, and I have a point as well. So this basically, this interaction or something, this little bit of conflict really helps you to fine-tune your software or find a balance between fine-tuning and say, okay, it's good enough for now, right? So that is the last tip I wanted to give you. Have a good mix of personality and experience in your team. So that's all I wanted to tell you. So this is the summary. I won't go through it again because you can take a picture, but there will be a QR code after this. So thank you very much. The QR code will lead you to my YouTube channel where you get an automatic premium subscription of $20 a month. Now, just kidding, it points to the URL where the presentation is, okay? So yeah, that's all I want to give you. I hope you can take some of these tips back to your teams and maybe try them out. And last but not least, I have to say, you know, enjoy the day very much because it's the first offline conference in ages. So enjoy JFall and thank you very much.